Welcome. One of the most visible consequences of climate change is an increase in the intensity and frequency of extreme weather events. Assam is under the grip of yet another severe flood. The severity of these floods has been increasing every year. There has been a demand for declaring Assam flood as a national disaster. In this video, we will look at the legal and executive provisions to declare a natural disaster as national disaster in India. How does the law define a disaster? According to Disaster Management Act 2005, disaster means a catastrophe, mishap, calamity, or grave occurrence in any area arising from natural or man-made causes or by accident or negligence which result in substantial loss of life or human suffering or damage to and destruction of property or damage to or degradation of environment and is of such a nature or magnitude as to be beyond the coping capacity of the community of the affected area. A natural disaster includes earthquake, flood, landslide, cyclone, tsunami, urban flood, heat wave, etc. A man-made disaster can be nuclear, biological, and chemical. Now, how can any of these be classified as a national disaster? The answer is there is no provision, executive or legal, to declare a natural calamity as a national calamity or disaster. According to a statement made by then Ministry of State, Home, in the Parliament, the existing guidelines of State Disaster Response Fund (SDRF) or National Disaster Response Fund (NDRF) do not contemplate declaring a disaster as national calamity or disaster. The only term that Government of India uses for severe natural calamity is a calamity of unprecedented severity. The government had treated the 2001 Gujarat earthquakes and 1999 super cyclone in Orissa as a calamity of unprecedented severity. So, has there ever been an attempt to define a national calamity? In 2001, the National Committee on Disaster Management, under the chairmanship of the then Prime Minister, was mandated to look into the parameters that should define a national calamity. But the committee did not suggest any fixed criteria. How does the government classify disaster? The 10th Finance Commission examined a proposal disaster be termed a national calamity of rarest severity if it affects one-third of the population of a state. But the panel did not define what is a calamity of rarest severity. They stated that it has to be adjusted on case-to-case basis, taking into account the intensity and magnitude of the calamity, level of assistance needed, the capacity of the state to tackle the problem, the alternatives and flexibility available within the plans to provide assistance and relief. What happens if a calamity is declared as a national calamity of rare severity? Support to the state government is provided at a national level. The center considered additional assistance from NDRF. A calamity relief fund is set up with a corpus share 3:1 between center and state. Additional assistance is also considered from National Calamity Contingency Fund, which is funded 100% by the center. There is also relief in repayment of loans or for grant of fresh loans to the person affected on concessional terms too. How is the funding decided? It is based on National Policy on Disaster Management 2009. As per this policy, the National Crisis Management Committee, headed by Cabinet Secretary, deals with major crises that have serious or national ramifications. For calamities of severe nature, interministerial central teams are deputed to the affected states for assessment of damages and relief assistance required. A interministerial group headed by Union Home Secretary studies their assessment, recommends the quantum of assistance from the NDRF or National Calamity Contingency Fund. Based on those recommendations, a high-level committee comprising the Finance Minister as chairman and Home Minister, Agricultural Minister and other members as decided by the Prime Minister approves the central assistance.